Hello my lovelies, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something a bit more personal and a bit more in depth. So this video might be quite a long one because this is quite important to me and how I came to be Rebecca. So if you're having certain struggles with whether you think you're transgender or not, or you're just so confused or unsure, I also was super confused. I was battling every thought of mentality that I had because I wasn't in that stage of acceptance with myself. And I think it's okay to feel that way because it is a very confusing feeling and it isn't a decision you take out lightly. And by decision, I mean coming to grips or coming to accept this sort of mentality that you might be struggling with, and finally deciding what the right move is for you. So without further ado, let's get into it because this is going to probably be a very long one and I'm probably going to forget a lot of stuff and miss a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure I try and cover as much as possible. So to begin with, I started to develop sort of gender confusion around the age of 11 when I started to learn about transgender people. I started experimenting with clothing of the female variety and I felt a certain contentment with it. As this feeling of contentment sort of grew, and I just started to feel like it was a phase of some sorts, but it wasn't stopping. I learned about SRS and bodily transitions from male to female, and even had thought processes of me actually becoming a woman through some sort of means. And I just wrote it off as some sort of phase. I just thought I felt so embarrassed about it that I didn't talk about it ever. And so I just kind of grew up with this sort of secret feelings throughout my entire teen part of my life. As I started developing, getting older and older, this phase in my head was still there and I just kept writing it off as a secret phase thing and I didn't want people to know. So I started trying to build up this character of a male persona where I tried to improve my fashion sense. I would try to improve my muscle and body shape, my self-confidence as well, and try to build up this male attraction as to kind of just fit in, if you know what I mean. I just wanted to fit in and just be happy because I just was getting to a sort of depressed stage. And I feel like it was just me also just trying to fit in with society and just make people feel happy for me, that I was trying to be a better version of myself. And I was getting depressed by trying to be this person that I probably was never meant to be in the first place. Like, I didn't want to build up muscle for starters. I didn't want to get this super muscular male body where I would look more attractive as a guy, but I still wanted a female slender body. And so there was this like battle between myself, between male me and this female persona, trying to fight with each other, and it just led to depression. I eventually bought some of my own female clothing, where it was just sort of like blendable enough, like jeans for example. I bought female jeans and I'd wear them on the sly, if you know what I mean, so that it was kind of like maybe nighttime walks or something like that, and I'd just sort of like wear female jeans and I'd feel contentment. I would feel a little bit more lifted or relieved, and it was just so much easier for a bit. It was just like a little weight off my shoulders. And then I realized there might be something a little different going on in my head, that this isn't potentially some sort of phase, it might be me. But it led to so much confusion and I just didn't know what to do, to the point where I actually, well, I live near the beach and let's just say I went to some high places at the beach and was very depressed, and I wanted to do a silly. Thankfully though, my best friend and my sister was very supportive. I actually eventually ended up calling both of them at different times, and they were both very supportive, and I can't thank them enough. So my sister and my best friend Callum, thank you so much for actually helping me in such dire need at these times. Through this support, I actually told them how I was feeling and what I was going through, and my confusions were kind of being explained to them, and they said it was alright. And so I asked if I could basically, if I go around the house, that I can be female and dress feminine. And they were like, yeah, it's fine. It's you at the end of the day. And so there I started to build these little sanctuaries, these like safe homes, where I could just dress female, experiment with makeup and accessories and clothes. And it did me a lot of good. It made me feel a lot more relieved, less stressed. But there were still some issues to address, such as family, work, and my whole lifestyle altogether, because it was still a secret in my main life. So I needed to start telling family. So I needed to tell my parents. I have 4 parents because they were divorced and then they got with their own partners. So I eventually told my stepdad first, and he kind of assured me that I could tell my mum and it would be okay. So I also told my mum, and so I kind of explained to her that I preferred dressing in female clothing and that there's nothing to worry about. It's just female clothing and that's it. But she also expressed to me the possibilities that I probably want to go further than that, and we kind of talked about me if I ever decided to go the full transgender route, which I did in the end. So it was a very good idea that we actually talked about that in the first place. I also went to the doctors and I got referred to a sort of counselling session to talk about these feelings, and this kind of started the process of me going into wanting to transition, because then they referred to me to a clinic on the NHS, to which I'd be on a waiting list for 2 years, they said. Also, just to add, I have told my dad and my stepmom as well. I just kind of skipped over that bit, but yes, I also told them around the same period of time as my mum and stepdad. I eventually moved to my dad and stepmom's house, and just so I could have that supportive background, because I was very worried about not having enough support, and it was a very big step for me, and so I'm really grateful for that. As I was starting to live with my dad and stepmom, I started going through developing my female persona more and started to kind of grow out my hair more, but then there came this point where my dad and I wanted to go on holiday, and I kind of hit this moment where I still wasn't sure. I was very skeptical with where I wanted to take this road. Am I making sense? You know what I mean? I was very unsure, and so I really probably made one of the biggest mistakes is I cut my hair. I cut my hair back to a male look, and I wanted to make one more chance where I basically would live male for one more week on holiday and see if I can handle it. See if it was definitely the right move. And when I was on holiday, I felt so bad and so guilty that for myself, I wish I never cut it. I wish I never did that. And so I kind of regretted doing that. But it gave me the sort of the final confirmation that I wanted to go the route of transitioning, and it would make me feel better because I would be less depressed and stressed and just broken mentally. To which eventually I decided that I would call the London Transgender Clinic and go private. To this day, I am still on the waiting list after 2.5 years on the waiting list to see if I have gender dysphoria. I have already paid privately and been diagnosed with dysphoria, and I have also been given my hormones, and I've been on hormones for a year. That's how slow the process is if you try and go the free route. It's there, but it's probably not helpful for a lot of people who really do struggle mentally with gender dysphoria. Now that I've been on estrogen and the other two hormones of progesterone and T blockers, I don't think T blockers is a hormone, but you know what I mean. I've gone through phases of the mentality struggles, and I can say that mentally I have been really struggling with certain things because you just want to be done with it. You just want to look at the mirror and just see that person you always were meant to be. Not to mention stuff like you get upset with like facial hair, and that's another thing that you have to deal with because you have to get it removed, and it's no best way of saying it, but it's a fairly painful process if you go the electrolysis or the laser route. So it's not the best of fun. My bone structure makes me feel a bit dysphoric as well. I would like to have surgery to kind of alleviate this dysphoria with my nose and brow most, and potentially chin, maybe jawline. I think it's probably round enough, but I'm not sure. It's something I want to talk about with a surgeon maybe. I also started to kind of maybe sort of develop a sort of eating disorder because I started experiencing a different appetite where I would eat so much all the time before I started hormones, and slowly but surely I wasn't as hungry. I started feeling quite happy to have just 2 meals a day, and I can still do that. But there's also this kind of uncertainty that you're doing the right thing for your body, but it's kind of hard because you're not hungry, but you're not eating as much. And so it's kind of like this little battle in your head. Unfortunately came the lockdown, and so before I was due my next appointment for a consultation to check my blood levels and my testosterone levels, lockdown got in the way, so I couldn't actually get that done. And so I kind of didn't get seen to until another few more months, and it kind of made me feel like I was slowed down because we found out that my testosterone levels were still very high, and so I felt really behind, and this has set me into another kind of mental depression because I felt behind. I felt like I've only just started developing bodily wise because I've now got the testosterone blockers, and I'm still trying to fight it in my head because it has kind of really got to me that I really feel like I have fallen behind. I'm 27 years old now, and I don't know, I just feel like if I'd started at 20 or something like that and I just accepted this in my head, then the whole stuff of this process probably would have been different. But I also feel like if I hadn't started when I did, then I suppose I wouldn't have the knowledge I have now and be able to tell people what to expect in certain lights, and maybe even show eventually that there is no too late to transition kind of thing. I feel like 26 was too old and that I probably wouldn't achieve my goals. but I am still working at achieving my goals, and I feel like I can do it. I just need to keep working at it. I also wanted to kind of work on my voice as much as possible. I'm more confident to speak now than what I used to, but I still feel I can improve my voice. Unfortunately, there is no way to really sort out voice other than voice surgery or training. And I don't think we do voice surgery in the UK, so I'd have to travel to do that if I wanted to do that. So I kind of wanted to have this skill set to be able to use a female voice and a male voice if I wanted to, as a voice actor maybe. But yeah, I still feel like I got a lot more work to do in my voice, but I still feel confident enough to speak with it, because I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't sound right, but some people say it sounds fine. But yeah, that is literally my voice. I want to improve it as I grow, and I'm hoping that these changes will be visible as I grow my channel. Anyway, I feel like maybe the main message from here is that there will be a potential time where you feel so confused about your gender identity and whether you should transition. And I think if you are feeling these thoughts all the time, then it probably is a signal that you should probably consider it sooner than you might realize. I had a very hard time accepting it. I hit a point where, you know what, I think I am transgender, but I couldn't accept it because I didn't want to upset people. I'm a people pleaser, and I thought I would break everyone's heart and take away a lot of people in my life, and it definitely was a hard process for people around in my life, but it definitely has helped me a lot more in my own lifestyle, and I feel a lot less stressed. The only stresses I have now are more just about wanting it to be done, wanting to be at the end goal already. But you know, it takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of work. So yeah. Anyway, I hope this has been somewhat informative for some people, and maybe help some people with their decisions. Again, I certainly did struggle, and I didn't really decide to transition until about 25. So yeah. So don't be too hard on yourself when you're still potentially feeling a bit confused about where you want to go with it, because you just need to go at your own pace sometimes. I also coughed like a lot, and I probably look a lot redder now all of a sudden. But yeah, that's the reason. I just coughed. So anyway, I think I'm going to end this episode off here. I hope it has helped some people out there. And for other people, I hope it's just made it informative or educational. But yeah, I've been Rebecca Markov, and I shall see you hopefully in the next video. Take care of yourself.